And hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of Chapters here on Armstrong Cable. Chapters is the television show that profiles local authors, editors, and publishers in our community. I'm Elliot Parker, and it's great to have you with us. On this episode of Chapters, we're going to focus on publishing and all things publishing, and we're pleased to have Jeff Kallet, the sales manager from Ohio University Press in Athens, Ohio, with us today to talk to us a little bit about Ohio University Press, some of the works and books and items and articles that they publish, as well as talk to us a little bit about the publishing industry in general. So Jeff, welcome to Chapters. It's nice to have you here.
Thanks, Elliot. Good to be here.
So tell us a little bit first, for some folks who may not be familiar about Ohio University Press, give us some background on the press and some history regarding Ohio University Press.
Okay. Well, we are affiliated, as our name sort of implies, with Ohio University in Athens. And we are considered the publishing arm of the university. Originally, we were founded in 1964, so actually last year we had our 50th anniversary. So we've been around 50 years, and the sort of mission of the press is to publish scholarly work at its core. So we publish a lot of academic books for scholars out in the world, but we also publish general interest titles, and we have a special interest in regional books, and for us that means books about Ohio, books about obviously local around Athens, and the larger Midwest and Appalachia, which we're part of all those three different territories.
And how long have you been with the press, and how did you get involved working with OU Press?
So I've been there, this is my 11th year. And I have my way of getting there, like a lot of people finding their way into different jobs, was a little bit different. My previous job, I worked at a library doing bookmobile work. And prior to that, I was at a children's publisher. And before that, I was a newspaper reporter.
So you spent a lot of time in your professional career being around books, surrounded with books, and also writing too.
Yeah, words, books, that's sort of the common theme. And my degree is in English literature. So there is this sort of nice pattern, but at least it felt to me kind of like going zigzagging till I got to University Press.
When we talk about university presses, I know they're sort of a niche or one subset of publishing and what's going on in publishing today. We have, self-publishing, which is an option for a lot of writers. There's traditional publishing, there's small press publishing, and then there's academic presses, sort of like Ohio University Press. What makes a press like OU Press different and unique in that niche? You mentioned that a lot of the books that you all publish are scholarly works and that's one of your main missions. Is that typical of most university presses, or is that something that makes Ohio University Press, maybe academic presses in general, unique in that regard, and that they look for scholarly works first and then branch out from there?
I think I would agree with what you just said. I bet all university presses share that common mission, which is the phrase that I hear a lot is publishing the fruits of scholarly research. So we are definitely part of that world of publishing. A lot of those books you're not going to find at a local bookstore. They're going to make their way into research libraries around the world. They'll also find their way into other scholars who might buy them online or order them through their campus bookstores. But the common general reader is not necessarily going to find them at a place like Empire Books and News. So there's that. We also publish books that are general interest, but a major publisher in New York, one of these larger publishing houses like Simon & Schuster, Random House, might find that the profit of publishing a book like on Ohio gardening or a biography about an Ohioan who's not well known nationally might be too risky for them. But for us, we're also a nonprofit. One of our missions is to publish things that may not be, taken up by a larger publisher. So we're sort of filling in a niche in the publishing world that way. One of the things that you also hear about is the short story. for years, the university press community has sort of supported that short story genre, which is not necessarily a bestseller most times when these things are getting published. So a lot of major publishers might not want to take that up. It's too risky. So university presses in general have sort of picked those types of books up and kept that alive, and it's something that people are proud of. The short story.
How many submissions or inquiries do you get, would you say, in a month or in a year at OU Press?
I don't know the exact number. We have two people on staff who are both acquisitions editors, and I know that they get submissions pretty regularly. I know it keeps them really busy because they have to read all this that comes in and evaluate it and make a decision based on our list, what interests them. And so, probably like with a lot of publishers, we must turn away a lot more than we actually can accept.
You mentioned short stories being something that Ohio University Press has taken on, and that some university presses also take on in terms of their publishing responsibility. And you talked a moment ago about profitability and what the big publishers like Simon & Schuster would take as opposed to a smaller publisher. Is it seen in the publishing world that short stories don't sell as well? Or is it just something that because people are writing novels and they're writing, romance in that genre and science fiction in that genre, that it tends to get overlooked? Because we've had some other publishers on that have said some similar things, that short stories oftentimes are the hardest to market, to get out there and to get distributors and bookstores to stock and to keep them on their shelves.
Yeah, I think that's true. And in fact, I know in a kind of a recent case, we had a short story collection come in, and we decided that it just wasn't something that we wanted to do. And we've published short story collections in the past, and some of them have done well, but it's a challenge to get those books picked up in stores, especially when you're dealing with authors who aren't national names. And we take a certain amount of pride in publishing people who aren't. Sometimes our books, we do poetry as well. These books that we publish are sort of sometimes stepping stones for these authors that launch them into bigger careers. But sometimes not, and you just never know, and so sometimes you just have to evaluate what's best for you at that time. And I think we'd like to embrace these genres that are, like poetry, for example, is sometimes a tough book to get into any given store. But we have a poetry award that's an annual, and poetry has sort of been in our DNA for a long time at the press. And so we feel that it's just something that we want to continue to do because we believe in it.
If someone went to the Ohio University Press website, or they did just a Google search on OU Press, one of the things they may find is something called Swallow Press, which is attached to Ohio University Press. Can you tell us a little bit about what Swallow Press is and how that's affiliated with the main press?
Well, right now it's considered an imprint. So it's under the Ohio University Press umbrella, and it's just a particular imprint. It's called Swallow Press because the original publisher was named Alan Swallow. And he was from, I forget where he was originally, but he, I think, started his own publishing outfit in Denver, Colorado. And he was interested in literary publications and also books about the West. And at one point in the 70s, Ohio University Press entered into a licensing arrangement with Swallow Press, and we inherited with that agreement their backlist. And they had some pretty nice books that we were able to sell and through that arrangement. And then in 2008, we actually had a moment where we decided that it would be good for us to actually buy Swallow Press outright. And so now we actually own Swallow Press. So we continue to publish literary works under the Swallow Press imprint. And then there's other books that are we've tended to do nature and outdoors books under the Swallow Press imprint more and more. We don't necessarily continue the Western tradition, so we have books in that series that are, or that imprint, that are about the Colorado Rockies and silver mining and places out west, and we don't necessarily continue that. But they're still in the backlist, and they still get ordered from the places out in Colorado and New Mexico and Nevada.
So the same staff that works with Ohio University Press also crosses over and works with Swallow Press as well?
Yep, we're all working on those books equally.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about publishing and where you see publishing going as time unfolds. And certainly we've had a lot of e-digital revolution occurring with how people read and the access that people have to books, and how anyone who has a book or a manuscript can go to an Amazon or go to CreateSpace and upload that and make that available. As you think about Ohio University Press now and maybe looking ahead into the future, if you had a crystal ball or a magic 8-ball, what do you see as the future of publishing, and what do you see as some of the challenges going forward, not only for an academic press like Ohio University Press, but for other presses in general?
Wow, that's a tough question. Well, we've obviously seen over the 10, 11 years that I've been at the press, a pretty significant change with regard to e-publications. And we made that transition successfully. So when I first started at the press, we were publishing either a book in hardcover or paperback. Those were the two decisions that we had to make. Now we also are publishing EPUBs. In terms of where to go or what the future holds, I think just being nimble. I think that what we all learned through this last sort of dynamic in the industry is that you really have to be on your toes. And right now it's an interesting thing that we're able to print smaller print runs and get them out quicker than we used to. Mm-hmm. And also the quality of those books has gone up over the last several years. So that I think in terms of the future of publishing, that may be an area that you're just able to publish a certain book, smaller number. Obviously you want to sell a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
You can go back and just not overprint, basically. You can print a small number and get it out there. What that's going to do, to the direction of publishing, I'm not sure, but in one regard, it's a convenience for a publisher. You just have this kind of an array of options when you look at how you're going to publish a book and what quantities and things like that.
And I would think, too, that helps the publisher, as you were saying, because you don't have to worry about printing 50,000 copies of a book and then worrying about, let's say, 10,000 sell, and you've got 40,000 that you have to warehouse and hang on to until those orders come in. Now you're able, because of print-on-demand technology and things of that sort, to do maybe a 1,500 book print run or 2,000 books or something of that sort, and be able to get those out there and not have so much that you have to hang on to and store and warehouse too.
Right, that's always been a challenge. So this print-on-demand does make that job a little bit easier, less risky, but there are still kind of tough decisions to make with that because various issues relating to cost of printing, quality in some cases. A lot of times our books that have color or artwork in them, we want to be published or printed offset rather than print on demand, just for quality control issues. And so you still have that sort of old model, going into this other type of printing. So.
Very good. Not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you see are some of the challenges of working in an academic press in terms of collecting manuscripts, getting books out there, getting them published, that maybe another smaller press or maybe a larger Simon & Schuster kind of press wouldn't necessarily have to go through?
I don't know. I mean, I see our books on to a degree on an equal playing field. The one thing that's a little bit more challenging is that we're in Ohio, and a lot of the people who are in larger media outlets are in New York, and so are the publishers. And so I think developing relationships is a challenge, personal relationships. We tend to get to New York on a regular basis to meet with key contacts at these places, and you develop relationships, and those relationships help when it comes time to send a book to get reviewed. But still, it's not like you can do lunch with people on a Wednesday afternoon. You really have to budget for that meeting, and you have many meetings lined up. And I think that's probably one factor that's a challenge to being at an Ohio academic press. Some people have wondered if having university in your name is a challenge, but I don't think so. I think a lot of the people that I've met at the Wall Street Journal, Publishers Weekly, Library Journal, Booklist, and even newspapers like the Washington Post and the New York Times, they know university presses. They know that we represent quality, and they're always interested in what we do. They can't always review our books the way they do with larger name authors, but we've had some good fortune over the years here and there, and I always get the feeling that they take us very seriously and give us a chance.
That's great.
So,
That's great. Quite a good compliment too for your staff and the press as well, to have that reputation where they feel comfortable talking to you and are interested in what you guys are producing. That's great.
Yeah, very much so.
I wanted to also ask you about the process from the time a manuscript is sent to your press to the time it gets published, if it is accepted for publication. So if I had a manuscript, or one of our audience viewers had a manuscript and they wanted to send it to Ohio University Press, and they found out your contact information, or they found out where to send the submission, what is sort of the timeline? What's the process? Once that arrives, what are the steps? Where does it go? And at what point does an author find out, yes, it might be something you all would like to publish, no, you wouldn't, and then where does it go from there?
Okay. So this is also an area that I'm not totally familiar with at the press. I usually do with the end product rather than the beginning, but I can kind of talk a little bit. First of all, I think once a book has been accepted, it's about 9 months or so until the actual book happens. So I'll get to your question about the earlier stages, but if a manuscript does get accepted, it goes through an editorial process. That takes a few different cycles, and then it goes into a production process, and that's a design and printing process, and then the book actually gets printed at a printer, and from there it gets shipped to a warehouse, and then from there it goes out into the world to fulfill. And that's about a 9-month process, ideally.
Okay.
Some books get hung up in editorial back and forth, changing things like that, so that can delay a project. And other books we fast forward and collapse. It's an easy edit, and we needed it for a meeting or something like that, so 9 months can become 7 months or something. But I don't know for sure. If somebody goes onto our website and submits a proposal, it lands at one of those two acquisitions editors. I don't know exactly how long it takes for them if they say they like it. What I know is this. If they like it, they will send it out to we call them readers. And in the cases of our academic books, the readers are experts in the field. So we do African studies as one of our major areas of publishing. And so we would take this book and send it to a couple of different expert readers who would evaluate the manuscript and let us know what they think about it. And if it needs improvement or if it's fine as it is. Once that comes in, we have an editorial board, and our acquisitions editor will take it to the editorial board and say, this is a book that I'm behind, I think we should publish this. They'll give some reasons for it, they'll explain the reader's reports, what the faults are, what the positives are, and then the editorial board has a chance to sort of say publish or not publish. So that's part of the process. I don't know how long that could be. 5 months, it could be 9 months also, but a lot of times I see that authors send in their materials, and it's a year and a half old, some of the correspondence, so it does take some time, but that's all part of producing something that is thoroughly vetted and expertly edited. So.
Absolutely. And those readers you were talking about that look at the manuscript once the acquisitions editors feel like that's something that they want to pursue, are they looking at just content more so than grammar and spelling, or both?
Yeah.
Or
I think at the reader stage, they're really focusing on content. Is this making a contribution to the field? Are there any flaws? Are there any other sort of gaps in the research that need to be addressed before you publish this under your name? So yeah, that's important for us to have. Beyond that, it's copy editors, and that's where the spelling and grammar come into play. And that's where that gets cleaned up.
Okay, excellent, very good. Well, we're fortunate that you were able to bring some of Ohio University Press's books with us here today, maybe some Swallow Press titles as well. And I know this is sort of your area of expertise in terms of, as you mentioned, on the back end of marketing. And we've got a lot of variety of different titles here, different lengths, different subjects, different genres. Why don't you take us through some of these titles and just tell us a little bit about some of the ones that you think are the press's best, or ones that you all are proud of the most, or ones that you find
Sure.
most interesting.
Okay, so I brought an array of books that represent a little bit about what we publish. The two I thought I should mention, first of all, are both Huntington connections, actually.
Okay.
We have a memoir in essays by a woman named Sarah Beth Childers, Shake Terribly the Earth, Stories from an Appalachian Family, and we published this last 2 Decembers ago.
Okay.
And then this, Thinking Outside the Girl Box, is by a Marshall professor, Linda Spottig, and her daughter, Lane Amerikaner. Mm-hmm. And this is a book about a program, like an empowerment program for girls in West Virginia. So these are two examples of books in Appalachian studies that we've published. Trying to see if there's another example of Appalachian studies. We do a lot in environments. This is Mountains of Injustice. And we also do, the series is called, it's a series in race, ethnicity, and gender in Appalachia. And this book just came out recently, Women of the Mountain South, Identity, Work, and Activism. And it's sort of painting a fuller picture of the diversity of women within the Appalachian region. I mentioned African Studies as one of our strengths. I brought today 2 biographies in a series that we do called Ohio Short Histories of Africa. This is Thomas Sankara, Emperor Haile Selassie. We've done books on Steve Biko, and these are pocket books, really. They're concise biographies, summaries of important leaders from Africa. We do things that aren't biographies as well, but these are 2 examples. This is Stones of Contention, A History of Africa's Diamonds, a book that did really well for us last year. It is how the title describes it. And let's see what else. We have a memoir about a man from Athens, Ohio, named John Thorndike, who took care for his father in the last year of his life. He had Alzheimer's, and his dad was he was a managing editor at Life magazine back in the late 40s. And this sort of, the cover reflects that Life magazine cover. But this was a really well-written book that, a lot of people are interested in this type of a topic. This would be a good example of a general interest book that we publish that got really great attention in national news media. I mentioned also to you earlier that we have a Columbus, Ohio mystery series that we just started up. This is Slow Burn, an Andy Hayes mystery. The author is Andrew Welsh Huggins. He's an Associated Press writer in Columbus. He does legal affairs, but he's a passionate reader and now writer of mysteries. And so his detective is a former Ohio State University quarterback who had some issues back in the day, and he's still trying to escape his reputation. And he has he's a detective, so these investigations sort of go through. They feature Columbus to a degree as a character, so they're interesting for that. And well-written, humorous stories. we published a first children's biography last October. This one is called Cammy on First, Baseball's Dottie Kamenchek. And this is a book about a woman from Cincinnati who was drafted to play for the Rockford Peaches when she was 17 years old. And a lot of people might know the Rockford Peaches from A League of Their Own.
I was going to say, that's the same Rockford Peaches from the movie,
and this
right?
is the Gina Davis character was Dottie Hinson. This is Dottie Kamenchek. So there were a lot of similarities in her career, all-star career, to the character that was played in the movie. But this is kind of a nice book for us. We're excited to be doing books for children and finding people who, may not be huge public figures, but might be worth knowing about.
Sure.
So that's this.
Terrific.
Like I said, we're from Athens, so we publish Asylum on the Hill, History of a Healing Landscape. We have, there used to be a state mental institution, and the grounds are still in existence, and people are fascinated with this as a location. I mean, there's all sorts of rumors about the hauntedness, but this is actually a book that explains the therapy that was in place when this was founded back in the 1800s. So it's very much an anti-haunted ridges type of a book. And there are a few others out here. There's a book, I thought I'd bring one art-related book. We do hook up with institutions like the Cincinnati Museum of Art, Columbus Museum of Art, Cleveland Museum of Art, to publish shows and exhibits and parts of their collections. This is an example of a book by a man who lived across the river, Lloyd Moore, and the book is called Face to Face, The Photography of Lloyd Moore. He was a lawyer and he had a camera, and he, over the years, would take pictures of people in his community. And I just find this to be a fascinating book, beautifully designed.
Yeah, the pictures are terrific.
Incredible photos of people. Most of them are black and white, but you see here and there color. And it's just a nice sort of spectrum of the community that he came from. So, yeah, that's a good example of a nice quality book that we do. Cookbooks, literary studies, guides, hiking guides. We sort of cover the gamut and have a lot of different areas. So there's just a nice variety. So anyone who wants to know more about what we do can check out more on our website.
That's terrific. And one of the things that caught my attention about these books too, Jeff, is the covers are just beautiful. I mean, for all the different kinds. I mean, if I'm just going to use your Africa and world history. I mean, if this was on a bookshelf outwardly facing, to where someone could see it. I mean, all of the covers for the books that you've shown us, I mean, that grabs people's attention. And I think that they all look terrific regardless of the genre or the subject matter or the author. Very eye-catching and very beautifully done.
Thanks.
So
Yeah,
you guys done a great job with that.
Covers do attract eyes, and we take great pride in making books that look attractive. So thanks.
And in our final moments, Jeff, if someone was interested or is interested in getting in contact with Ohio University Press or speaking with you or speaking to someone there at the press, how can they get in contact with you all? Where should they go first?
The website is the best place. It's www.ohioswallow.com.
Okay.
So that would be the place to go, and there's contact information there, depending on what people's interests are.
Great. Well, Jeff Kallet, the sales manager at Ohio University Press, thank you so much for joining us here on Chapters, for bringing us some of your excellent titles, and for all the good work, not only that the press is doing for scholarship and research out there, but also for the different general interest books that you guys produce, and for supporting authors, not only in this area, but also regionally and nationally. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you on back sometime soon.
All right, thanks. Appreciate your interest.
And we also want to take a moment to say thanks to Charlotte and her staff at Empire Books and News for providing our studio taping space today, and also for sponsoring us each and every week here on Chapters, and we encourage you to stop by Empire Books and News to satisfy whatever reading taste you may have. Some of the books from the authors and publishers that you've seen featured on Chapters are for sale here at Empire Books and News, including some of the ones produced by Ohio University Press. So we encourage you to stop by and enjoy those and check those out. Plus, we also want to remind you that Empire Books and News has the largest selection of magazines in the tri-state. So if you're a magazine reader, you've got an opportunity to come down and check those out as well here at Empire Books and News at Pullman Square in Huntington. And if you've got a question or comment about this chapter's program, we certainly want to hear from you. You can send us an email to the address that pops up right here at the bottom of the screen. It's letter L, letter P, number 4, LP4 at zoominternet.net. We appreciate all the comments and feedback that we do receive, but if you would like to reach us with a comment or suggestion or question, that's where you can find us right here at LP4 at zoominternet.net. And we've also made available to you all of the previous episodes of Chapters via the Armstrong One Wire page on YouTube. All you need to do is go to www.youtube.com/Armstrong One Wire, and there you can find the Chapters link and go back and look at all the episodes, previous episodes from our 2+ seasons of interviews with authors, editors, and publishers. We've got over 11 hours of interviews archived there. So if you've missed a program or you want to go back and see one again, that's where you can find it, and the address is right there at the bottom of the screen as well. So we know many of you have gone back and watched them for a second or third time and have left comments, and we appreciate that so much. But if you want to go back and check out more from some of our updated episodes, you can find that there at the Armstrong One Wire YouTube page. And that will do it for us this time on Chapters. Please come again next time. And in the meantime, stay tuned to this station for news and views that impact you and your community.